Can I get that little pick from you?
Yeah.
Cool. I used to play with these all the time. These little teardrop picks. Alright, so if we're talking about playing in C, like basically using this blues scale, and I see you doing like, and I see you kind of like utilizing that as well, right? Does that look familiar to you?
Mm-hmm.
So like, here are some elements that from like listening to you solo that I think would really bring about some extra variety, because this is like what a lot of like students like at your level kind of get into with soloing, is like it all sounds the same over and over and over again, right? And we're trying to get out of that as best we can. So like, there are, as far as I look at it, I feel like improvisation kind of exists on this sort of like XY graph of like density and dynamics. So you can do things that are really, really soft getting to really, really loud, and that creates variety. And then you can do things that are really, really sparse that get really, really dense, and that creates variety. And they're not exclusive. It's not as if you can only move in this direction, where as things get louder, they get more dense. You can play things that are really loud that are also very sparse. You can play things that are really, really dense but are also really quiet. It's just kind of up to how you want to balance out that like XY graph. So that's just one important thing to keep in mind. So like the idea that you have the range within one note to go like, and I'm only kind of utilizing this part of the graph where I'm like trying to push my dynamic level. The density was pretty much the same. I was it's like those kind of like eighth notey kind of funky things. But like the use of dynamics is a really, really big thing. And applied in like an improvisational context, I was playing over the track and I was like more trying to play melodies. You might notice it more like in this way. Like if I go like, like where I was kind of like pushing the dynamic. So that is going to create a lot of variety if you can, in the midst of taking a solo, remember to tap into that part of the graph of like, okay, get softer, get louder, get softer, get louder. That's going to do a lot for you. I didn't ever really hear in your solo any like long notes. You tend to play phrases that have like relative amounts of density, and then the ends of your phrases, they just end. So I hear a lot of like, right? It's like kind of all sounds like that. So what if instead of that you were to do stuff like this, like, see where I'm like getting to the ends of phrases. Some of the ends of my phrases, the note just stays there. And I like will all kind of vibrato it, like with a slow vibrato. Not like not of that, but like a, which is more like I'm pulling on the string to kind of try to get it to kind of sustain a little more. But I always hear you end your phrases short. Everything is ending like that. I'm never getting any. And if I have all these long notes that end my phrases, when I choose to use a short note, It like the actual like the punctuation of it is felt more. You get a lot more variety in that level. And then like again, I hear a lot of the same rhythms out of you. Like what about stuff that's super long? Like I never hear any like. See what happens when you go from these long notes that last a while to something that's shorter. You've created some variety along that level. So like, go ahead and put the track on and I'll take a solo to it. And listen for the use of my dynamics and my density. If I'm playing faster phrases, if I'm playing shorter phrases, like longer notes or shorter notes, and if I'm getting louder and I'm getting softer. Okay? All right, go ahead. So, all right. So I know I'm using some vocab in there that's not necessarily like just right inside of the scale.
Sure.
But like, did you notice the effectiveness of the times when I decided to get quieter and decided to get louder? Could you tell I was like making a decision to get louder and quieter? Did you feel like it was promoting some variety?
Correct.
Yeah. Were there sections of my solo where I was playing like a lot of notes and sections where I was playing like longer or bigger notes?
Yes.
And did they feel different?
Yes.
Yeah. So like you don't even necessarily need all of that vocab to be able to do that. You can do that within the A scale if you don't have crazy ADD like me and you want to play a bunch of notes. All that stuff totally falls right into the blues scale. If you want to just stick in that, that's completely fine. But like trying to utilize those elements will really bring out a lot of variety based on the things you're already doing. A couple other things that you can work on that are more just like little details. Sliding. Is a very like in terms of like creating texture is a good thing. Bending and vibrato. When you hit a long note at the end of a phrase, milk that thing. Like bends and slides and vibrato, like that's what makes your lines not sound as square. If everything you do is like I can't even stop myself. Like I gotta give it a little something. Like that's where you start to kind of get it to sound a little like milky or whatever you want to say it. Like everything being so stepping from one to the next. If you're not doing any kind of hammer-ons or slides or that's called a pre-bend. A pre-bend is where you bend the string and then you pick it and you let it go. I use that all the time. That's like a very useful like little soloing technique too. But the big thing is the density and the dynamics. The more you can get into that, the more variety you're going to see. Cool?
Yes, sir.